All right, I've got my mouse, I've got my notes, I've got my sanity for the most part. Thank you so much for waiting. I apologize for the little 5-minute delay there, folks. I know I scheduled this thing again for 8:45. Just wanted to make sure I had every bit of news possible for you. Yeah, we've had a week. If you checked my community tab, we have had a week. Let's get underway, though. Welcome to week 9. My name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football, and we've got plenty of things to go over with you today. I'm mostly reading off of injury updates. We'll go over some plug-and plays, and of course, as always, as we do in every single video, there is going to be time for you to pick my brain on anything and everything related to your team as we hit the halfway point of the season. We're just about 15 hours away from that main kickoff slate, noon for me in Central Time. So, by all means, pick my brain. Yeah, we should be good. And before we get going, I do just want to toss this message in here. Some of you have taken advantage of it already. We've got a deal going on. We did launch a merchandise shop just last week. Armchair Fantasy Football merchandise. We've got t-shirts, we've got sweatshirts, we've got quarter zips, we've got windbreakers, we've got mugs, we've got just about anything you could ask for in a pretty small sample size. And I have a 24-hour one-on-one deal right now. I'll get this out of the way. What does this mean, Corey? It means if you order anything off my store in the next 24 hours, I'm actually upgrading it. Order anything off my store in the next 24 hours, comment done in the comment section below, and email me proof of that buy order. I have my email in the bio. I have my shop link in the bio. Do all those things in the next 24 hours, and you will get a one-on-one call from me every week for the rest of the season. Every single week. We will talk about the future of your team. We'll talk about the climate of your fantasy league. We'll talk about your record, situational things. I'll find sleepers. I'll share an algorithm I just came up with to predict fantasy scores, basically my own version of projections for you. You will get a one-on-one call once a week for the rest of the year. I will take time out of my day every week, at least once, to just go over your team. All you've got to do is head on down to that description, hit the link for Armchair Fantasy merchandise. We've got some shirts in the ballpark of $20. We've got some premium sweatshirts in the ballpark of $30 to $35. I see MA Football Guys got one already. Awesome to see. We've got some crew necks. We've got a mug. Go down right now, get yourself some merch, and get yourself a one-on-one call with me one time every week for the rest of the year. I don't know many people who are doing that. So all you got to do, again, go down, link in description, get something off the shop, show some support, let us know you're done in the comment section below, and we're good for one-on-one calls throughout the rest of the year. We're going to help you finish as strong as possible. Now, folks, let's go through some injuries, and then I have a plug-and-play list and a little graphic I'll pop up next to myself here. MA Football Guys saying, hope you're doing well, man. Welcome back, Corey. I appreciate it. I appreciate your support. I appreciate all of your support. Hope you're all doing well as we head into Week 9 and as I try and settle into my seat here. So we're going to start out with, unfortunately, Joshua Palmer out against the New York Jets. Now, that sounds like a pretty bad situation, but if you watch the waiver wire ads video that we put up a couple of days ago, that means we've got plenty of opportunity against the Jets in Week 9 for Quentin Johnston. He had a season-high 6 targets last week against a pretty bruised-up Bears defense with Joshua Palmer already bruised up. Now we have him ruled out. It's a high-powered offense in Los Angeles that's top half of the league in pass frequency, so the amount of times per play, pretty much, that they are going to, I guess the amount of plays out of a fixed amount that they're going to throw the ball. And they're also top half of the league in plays run. They run a lot of plays, all right? So this is a Kellen Moore-led offense that's going to keep this train moving regardless of the personnel on the field, regardless of the injuries that we're seeing. Kellen Moore and Justin Herbert, even though he's down to 9 fingers now, are going to lead this team. So we've got some opportunity for Quentin Johnston in deeper leagues for sure. We've got Johnny in the chat. Johnny, I'll get to your questions for sure as well. Thank you for joining in. Darren Waller's on the IR. He was tight end 9 overall and was averaging 10.1 fantasy points per contest. Despite being on a poor offense, one thing he had going for him was a lack of volume competition with, of course, Saquon Barkley being down for a bit and the Giants working from behind a lot. Tyrod Taylor's on the IR. Not going out of our way to grab a Giants QB by any means, whoever it's going to be now, whether it's Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, or the third man in that depth chart. But Taylor was serviceable. I do want to give him his props. We had a 2-week stretch where the man had 10 and then 21 fantasy points in standard PPR. He tucked it and ran 18 times in 3 games. No interceptions. All right, lack of turnovers is something we really like to see, especially when we see more volume passing from a veteran like Taylor, who's been in the league for a while now. I mean, this was desperation mode, right? But I was telling some of you to go out and get Tyrod Taylor against the Commanders' horrible defense in Week 7. Johnny, I see you in the chat. We'll get to your questions in just a moment. But the Commanders, one thing I did learn from Tyrod Taylor's pretty good performance against them. The Commanders look like the defense to pick on this year. They look like the defense to prey on this year. If you've got depth offensive pieces who maybe aren't usually performing too well, but you think have an opportunity against the Commanders and are playing against the Commanders, maybe we just go give them the green light. Kyler Murray is not on the 53-man roster for Week 9 against the Browns. This is pretty huge because Clayton Tune is making a start against one of the most dominant front sevens in the NFL in Cleveland. Sometimes we have a situation where it's acceptable to start a backup QB in a certain spot. Look at me right now. This is not one of those situations. Do not, under any circumstances, go into waivers. This is not a joke. And get Clayton Tune. Don't do it. I don't care if everybody else is taken. We will find a way to finagle somebody else for you. There are so many backups out there right now. If it is Clayton Tune and somebody else who's putting on a jersey as the starting QB, I mean, he is 32 of 32 to me. I am not kidding. Tune is facing off against the Browns defense, allowing the least amount of passing yards per game. He is the third stringer behind Kyler and then Joshua Dobbs, who is now left. The Browns are allowing 163 passing yards a game. Tune has very limited experience. This is a losing football team. It's a poor offense. No. I hope I'm wrong. That'd be hilarious. But I would not take this chance, okay? I'm looking out for you guys. I'm not doing it myself. I'm going to hope you guys don't do it. Justin Fields is still out, so we continue down the quarterback injury train. Nearly a third of the league has a backup going into Week 9. He's a no-go against the Saints. Tyson Bagent and the Bears offense succeeded a lot more and played a complete game in Bagent's debut a couple of weeks ago when DJ Moore was used. 9 targets in a dominant victory against the Raiders. He was targeted just half the time last week. I expect a heavier dosage of usage for DJ Moore, even though he is going to be going up against a really tough defense in general. Tough secondary, tough front seven, led by one of the most underrated players in the entire NFL in Cam Jordan, in my opinion. We keep on moving. I will keep going through. Almost done. Give me about 5 minutes and I get to your questions. Hang around for sure. And again, we've got a great deal for you guys today. I'm going to mention that about every 10 minutes related to the store and you getting one-on-one help where I call you once a week for the rest of the year. We will video call. I will look over your team and we will do a deep dive once a week. I'm checking in. It's a consultation. All you've got to do is something related to the merch and we will get back into that in a moment. Luke Musgrave, good to go. The tight end for the Green Bay Packers against the Rams. He has only seen more than 5 targets 2 times in 7 weeks. This is my nice way of saying I really don't think Luke Musgrave being healthy means a whole lot for your chances, unless you're in a really tough spot tight end-wise. The entire wide receiving core is essentially healthy with Christian Watson being back despite a lack of usage at times. Green Bay's been easing both him and Aaron Jones back in. The Rams do allow the 8th most amount of fantasy points to tight ends. So I guess there's that. All right, plug and plays. Let's go to that next. Baker Mayfield owned in 42% of leagues. He's facing off against Houston, a team that's middle of the pack in terms of fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position. My main argument here is the guy's got a healthy Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, knock on frickin' wood, at his disposal. Baker Mayfield has been a decent middle of the pack quarterback, averaging around 16 fantasy points per game, pretty high floor. Some of you have been asking, Corey, what are some low-risk plays I can go for? Baker Mayfield's your guy, especially in this pretty barren QB market right now. And speaking of QBs, we'll go to Derek Carr next. Owning just 34% of fantasy leagues right now. We're referring to ESPN, by the way, so this might fluctuate depending on platform. He's going against the Bears. He's facing up against the bruised Bears defense that is missing Tremaine Edmonds and is missing Jaquan Brisker. Why does that matter? Because Derek Carr loves his checkdowns, and linebackers are typically assigned to backs who are going to go and run your little angle routes, get out in the flat, a.k.a. Alvin Kamara. Apparently, apparently Derek Carr's favorite target right now. Chicago also does play a lot of zone and laying back, letting everything be in front of them. That favors conservative play styles like Derek Carr, somebody who relies on a lot of those shorter routes and checkdowns and struggles to push the ball down the field. He can chip away and essentially kill the Bears defense via 1,000 paper cuts. Going into the backfield, we have Chuba Hubbard. It's a coin toss in terms of whether or not he is owned in your fantasy league, but I would take him. I would take him if he's available. Going up against the Indianapolis Colts this weekend. 17 touches this last week. Our main concern was Miles Sanders coming back. Miles Sanders had 2. Do you want to chalk that up to being maybe eased back into this offense for Sanders? You can, but the fact of the matter is Chuba Hubbard has been in this offense longer than Miles Sanders by a decent amount. This is Sanders' first year coming over from Philadelphia, and Chuba Hubbard has been more efficient. He's been hitting the hole quicker. He has more yards per attempt before contact, more yards per attempt after contact, and yeah, you do the math. He has more yards per attempt in general. The better option, if this team can get ahead in a couple of games, again, they just went out and beat the Houston Texans. All of a sudden, Chuba Hubbard's in a pretty decent volume spot. You just need Carolina to be competitive, but I think he's the feature back. Roschon Johnson, speaking of running backs who need their team to stay competitive, over in Chicago, rostered in 43% of leagues. As long as Khalil Herbert is down, that's fine with me. We're going to go with Roschon. He's going to get his touches, decent pass catching back as well. Whether it's Bagent or Fields, they seem to be utilizing running backs out of the pass more often than most teams. He goes up against a tough New Orleans defense this week, so play him if you're in a pinch. Tyler Boyd, 47% rostered, the third wide receiver on what looks like one of the most electric offenses in the league once again, going up against Buffalo. Taysom Hill, 38% rostered against Chicago. He broke 10 touches for the first time this season last week. Minnesota owning 29% of leagues going up against Atlanta. Brian Flores has that defense blitzing a lot, so I kind of like what's going on there, to be honest with you. All right. Let's get to your questions. Johnny says, I am 2-6, and the best team in the league is looking to acquire one of my running backs for a wide receiver. Would you trade away in this group? Who would you trade away out of this group? Travis Etienne, DeAndre Swift, Josh Jacobs, or Devon Achane? I don't think you're going to get a lot for Achane, even though he was super efficient. You got the best ability is availability. It's a cliche that I do like to use a lot. My friends say it all the time. And I agree with it. You need you guys to be on the field. Etienne, Swift, Jacobs. I'd probably deal Jacobs. If you can hold on to Etienne and Swift, so be it. Jacobs is an interesting play. He's still averaging in the ballpark of 3 yards per carry flat, which is not good at all. I will be blunt. It's pretty freaking bad. But he is heavily involved as a pass catcher, whether it's Jimmy G, Aiden O'Connell, or somebody else. They are dumping it off to Jacobs a lot. All right. So we go Jacobs. Their wide receivers are Chris Olave, Puka Nacua, Chris Godwin, Michael Pittman Jr., and Jordan Addison. I mean, right, you're 2-6. We're essentially, Johnny, looking at a situation where we want to run the table. So I am probably thinking we swing hard and go after somebody like Puka Nacua. I would argue the value is going to be a little bit down with Matthew Stafford not playing this week. One of 10 quarterbacks not playing this week. Johnny, I'm thinking we go Puka Nacua. Maybe we go Josh Jacobs straight up for Puka Nacua. I feel like that's pretty fair. If they want to throw in, it better be somebody from your bench. You're not giving up 2 of those running backs for somebody like Puka. If you want to swing for somebody else, go get Jordan Addison. Just understand, obviously, when Justin Jefferson's back, you're going to see a serious decline in volume. I still think he's going to be one of the better wide receiver 2s in the league. All right. Is it wrong? Okay, 10-team PPR redraft league for Johnny. Is it wrong to think I'm not impressed with his wide receiving core? My wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Christian Watson, and Jacoby Myers as your 4. I mean, they have good depth, really good depth. If you have Michael Pittman Jr. as, I would argue, the wide receiver 4, that's pretty insane. Jordan Addison, maybe the wide receiver 4. They don't have a elite wide receiver. They have some guys flirting with top 10 status in Chris Olave, Puka Nacua, and even Chris Godwin. You can make the argument to be there. Michael Pittman Jr.'s got a little bit of volume competition with Josh Downs, but it's nothing crazy. They've got phenomenal depth, and you've got more so, I mean, you've got 2 home run hitters in CeeDee Lamb and Devontae Adams. I would take either of those guys over anybody on his team. So you're really looking for that solid wide receiver 3. I think Puka Nacua would be serviceable. I think that Chris Godwin's more low risk because obviously Mike Evans a little bit older than him. Now Baker Mayfield does like the home run ball. but the high percentage throws are going to Godwin so far. So going Jacobs straight up for Godwin or Nacua, I think will give you a more consistent wide receiver 3, and you're not really giving up the elite level wide or running back out of there. You still have Travis Etienne, Mr. Touchdowns on that wonderful Jacksonville offense that's going to run the ball a lot because they are 6-2 and they're a winning ball game or a winning team. As a result, you're going to be running the ball a lot late in ball games, and then my goodness, I mean DeAndre Swift, the most run-heavy team in the NFL right now, if not one of them, in Philadelphia. It's been Philadelphia and San Francisco pretty much all year. Going after that spot, you want to keep those two guys for sure. All right, worried about playoffs might be out of my reach. I've had terrible luck so far with each loss being due to one random player on my opponent's team having an amazing boom game. Do I give up? Never give up, man. I mean, if you're performing well, that's all you can really control. I've had a lot of those. I had the second highest scoring team in a pair of leagues, and I'm 4-4. And these are 12-team leagues, or one's a 12, one's a 10. Keep it up. If you're going to make a trade, try and attack that wide receiver 3 spot. Give yourself a little bit more security should you go up against somebody who has a random boom player again, all right? I think you're doing well. It's obviously just not the most lucky year for you, and I'm sorry about that. MA Football Guy, from the team I sent you earlier, I'm now going to flex Pollard instead of DJ Moore and play Pacheco as my running back 1. Completely fine with that. Tony Pollard has had a couple of tough weeks, but he's still on a winning football team and one that can be dominant at times in Dallas. And Pacheco is the running back 1. I'd typically take a wide receiver over a running back in a flex spot, especially in PPR formats. But, I mean, I do think Bagent's going to target DJ more, but the situation that Pollard's in is a lot better. We just have somebody in a more high-powered offense. Chicago, one of the many teams with backup quarterbacks in right now. It's tough. It is tough. All right. But I think you're doing well there. We have T-Zench in here. Good to see you. Hello. We have quarterbacks are Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray. Running backs are Kyren Williams, Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Javonte Williams, and Ramondre Stevenson. Wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Kupp. Nope, I just scrolled down. CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Kupp, Marquise Brown. I traded Kyler, and Marquise for Amon-Ra. How did I do? Amon-Ra St. Brown is probably the most reliable wide receiver out there. I mean, he's averaging in the ballpark of 20 points per game in standard PPR formats. I think you did well. I think the fact that you still have a pretty good quarterback in Dak right now and his stock is only rising with how many quarterbacks are going down. Say what you want about Dak Prescott. He's going to throw for volume. Career-wise, he's been sitting around 250 passing yards per game. He's in a high-powered offense. You got rid of somebody who's obviously on the IR and was unexpectedly put on the IR. Kyren Williams initially just tweaked his ankle. Typically, when you see that terminology, you wouldn't expect somebody to be out for a month. That's what happened with Kyren. Marquise Brown, obviously, you went to a better offense than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Also, Chuba or Stevenson this week, and Patriots defense or Giants defense. In general, I'm almost always rolling with the Patriots defense. However, I don't want to say the Commanders' offense is bad. I don't think they are. They'll have their moments. Giants, Raiders down to O'Connell, but I do think that there's going to be a more Davante Adams-friendly offense, a more Josh Jacobs-friendly offense. There was a lot of dissatisfaction there. I actually called this the fact that Josh McDaniels, another coordinator, left this team before the trade deadline. Tells me that Davante Adams maybe gave them a it's him or me ultimatum, or at least the Raiders felt that way. That's my way of saying that I do think the Raiders should do all right. I'm taking the Patriots defense here just by a bit. Chuba Hubbard or Ramondre Stevenson this week. Ramondre, I was making the threat not too long ago that maybe Ezekiel Elliott could take his job. I don't feel that way anymore. He's gotten more efficient, still very involved as a pass catcher. Chuba Hubbard, obviously, looks like he's taken that job away from Miles Sanders. Going up against the Colts this week, potential trap game for sure. Gardner Minshew is one of the better backups in the league. Bryce Young's healthy. And Ramondre Stevenson going up against one of the worst defenses in the league in the Commanders. I am leaning Patriots defense. I am leaning Ramondre Stevenson. Pretty hard to get me to lean in the direction of the 2023 New England Patriots twice in the same sentence, but I'm going to do so here. Hope that helps you. Bapjap back in here. Good to see you. Sup, Corey? Been a while. Sure has. Currently 3-5 and still unsure about what to do with Davante Adams. He did drop to me in the second round of my 10-team league, but he's been piss poor lately. I think the situation's going to get a little bit better. I've asked around different fantasy channels, but yet They all say to start him without diving into details. Do you think the rookie will play into him more? I wish I had the stats on this BapJap, but typically when you've got a rookie in there, when you've got a backup in there, the first thing they're going to revert to, if they're not told to run the ball a ton, is the secure, safe wide receiver one. We saw Tyson Bagent do that in his debut a couple of weeks ago. He threw to DJ Moore 9 times. That was more than anybody else. We've even seen Justin Fields do it, still relatively young QB. I think Davante Adams starts to get more targets. The question we have to ask ourselves is, how productive in general is Aiden O'Connell going to be? I think he's looked all right. The kid out of Purdue. I don't know if he can be much worse than Jimmy Garoppolo. If you want to sell Davante Adams, I think a lot of people realize it's a buy low option right now. They realize things should get better in Las Vegas with some coaching and quarterback changes and just decision maker changes in general, we will call them. BapJap, I would not blame you for selling Davante Adams for somebody more consistent like Amon-Ra St. Brown in a throw-in. I think that's still pretty doable. The fact of the matter is this, BapJap. I'm not going to tell you what the other fantasy people are. You're 3-5. You are in. I need to run the table. Maybe I can afford 1 or 2 losses. Probably just 1 loss mode. All right. I'm assuming after 14, 15 weeks, the playoffs start. Let's say you got to go 8-6. You need to go 5-1 in your next 6 weeks. We can't just sit around and hope that the situation, because it changed, is going to get better for Davante Adams. I just told you there's a pretty decent chance there is, but the fact of the matter is we haven't seen the performance. He looks dissatisfied. Las Vegas sucks. I mean, just trying to spit facts here. We want to win now, answer. We want someone who's consistent. I would say you go and do what you need to do to get one of the safest options in fantasy football in Amon-Ra St. Brown. All right, BapJap, I think you can still deal Davante Adams for Amon-Ra St. Brown. It might be closer to a straight-up deal. You can't just continue to start somebody who's not putting up numbers, who's not getting the ball, who's not happy in their situation, and who's not in a good offense. All of those boxes are checked off with Davante Adams. You're 3-5. It's win now, dang near run the table mode to try and scrape into the playoffs. I would deal him. You have some trade value there. You have a big name who, albeit he's underperforming, but you should be able to go out and get one of the most secure names in fantasy football in Amon-Ra St. Brown. That is my diagnosis for you, my friend. MA Football Guy says benches Rachaad White and Amari Cooper. Going back to your team here. Yeah, I'm fine with those two on there if you want to go Moore or Pacheco for sure. Pacheco, a running back 1 on a winning team, that's fine with me. All right. MA Football Guy, I'm 6-2 going up against 7-1. My team is Dak, Austin Eckler, I'm assuming, Breece Hall, Keenan Allen, Josh Downs, David Njoku, Gus Edwards, Atlanta's defense against Minnesota this week, Cameron Dicker the kicker, Sun God, and Jameer on bye. Yeah, Jameer on bye, of course, right as he starts to really perform. Bought low on Jameer about 4 weeks ago. It was nice to finally see the fruits of my labor about a month later. Got him with Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley's got to be the most inconsistent fantasy football player I have seen in a while. It's boom or bust, quite literally, every single time. All right, Brian Pereira, 2-6, and the road to redemption begins now. I agree. Let's run the table, Brian. Going against an opponent who has Jordan Love, Nico Collins, Tank Dell starting, lots of quality guys in their bench who are on buys. All right, Brian, any help you need setting the lineup at all? You just let me know. I do want to key you guys in on a great deal that we are doing, and it's going to extend through the rest of the season. All you have to do is do one thing for me in the next 24 hours and send me proof of it, and you will be rewarded for the rest of the year. We are doing a 24-hour one-on-one consultation deal. I know that sounds super like professional and uptight and stuff. All this means is, folks, anybody who's watching this live stream right now, if you head on down into the description and you hit the link to armchairfantasyfootball.com, it's our new merch store, just launched last week. Decent products for, I would say, pretty affordable prices, and you buy one thing just to support us. You let us know in the comments section below, say done. I'll see the order go through if you want to let me know what you got. If you do that in the next 24 hours, just get one item off the store, I will give you a one-on-one call once a week for the rest of the 2023 season. We will video chat. We will look at your team. We'll look at your situation. If you've got a redraft league, if you've got a dynasty league and you're looking to build for the future, we'll keep that into consideration. We'll look at our buy low, sell high options. We will go through an algorithm that I am making for fantasy football that I'm going to put into action next week and probably share with all of you regardless anyway, and we'll apply it to your team. I will give you my wholehearted advice and nothing but my time once a week for the rest of the week. if you grab something out of my store in the next 24 hours. Little mutual agreement. Let me know if you're down for it. Link is in the description. You get one item. I give you a one-on-one call once a week, rest of the year. And no questions asked beyond that. All right? Any other questions you guys have, feel free to pop those in the chat. I'm going to run through this store a little bit and just kind of show you. And actually, I want to run through, if you are just popping in, I want to run through the plug and plays once more. These are people you can pick up and, in my opinion, start depending on your league format. I'm feeling pretty good in 12-team standard PPR style leagues. If you go and get Baker Mayfield and start him against a middle-of-the-pack defense in Houston, he's got Mike Evans, he's got Chris Godwin, he's averaging 16 points per game. He's been middle of the pack. He's had a high floor. That's what we're thinking here. Derek Carr against that bruised-up Chicago defense, missing Tremaine Edmonds and Jaquan Brisker. Huge because Carr loves his checkdowns, and he's going up against a zone-heavy defense. Linebackers are typically assigned to Alvin Kamara, and Derek Carr loves himself some Alvin Kamara. Chicago plays a lot of zone. Conservative play like that's typically going to be rewarded. Chuba Hubbard, 17 touches to Miles Sanders 2 last week, going up against a weak Indianapolis front 7. Never thought I'd say that. They were pretty strong not too long ago. Roschon Johnson's got the job over Khalil Herbert until he's back against New Orleans. Tough matchup, but opportunity nonetheless. Tyler Boyd, owning less than half of leagues, going up against Buffalo for sure. Taysom Hill, we've got, and again, that's a high-powered offense in Cincinnati. Taysom Hill against Chicago, broke 10 touches last week. Minnesota, 29% rostered, going up against Atlanta. Brian Flores has those boys blitzing. All right. Brian Pereira says, got Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, thinking of dropping for David Njoku. I mean, that's a stock up, stock down situation, right? Ferguson is seeing less and less usage as guys like Brandon Cooks are being utilized more. I see animes in the chat. Nice to see you. We've got Jacoby Myers and the Falcons defense. I stream kickers. Brian, I don't blame you. I admire that, actually. Any special teams you would recommend to stream? In all honesty, I might just go on the other end of that spectrum, Brian. I don't hate Minnesota either. You have an Atlanta team that's scoring well below 20 points per game. I know Minnesota's going to have a freaking random backup back there, but they do have Jordan Addison. They do have Alexander Madison, who's look pretty nice. They do have TJ Hawkinson. They've got KJ Osborne. It's more or less just how is the person under center going to do. Minnesota has one of the highest blitz rates in the league. I know Atlanta has a pretty impressive offensive line, but they've scored not too often this year. They have struggled to put up points on the board. I'd be all right with either side, Brian, in that Minnesota-Atlanta matchup. Minnesota's hovering around the top 10 for defenses in fantasy football. Never thought I'd see the day. I mean, they've been pretty poor the last few years. MA Football Guy says, drop Devontae Adams for... So yeah, I would do, just to be clear, Brian, I would do the Minnesota or Falcons defense. I think that's going to be a low-scoring game. Any special teams, that would be it. MA Football Guy says, drop Devontae Adams for Pop Douglas. I would not be dropping Devontae Adams. I would definitely trade him, MA Football Guy. Olave, wide receiver 2. I'm going to say either you deal Devontae for somebody like Amon-Ra St. Brown or you start him and stick it out. I would not drop him. Olave, wide receiver 2 is solid. Douglas is not going to rise above Devontae for me quite yet. Again, some changes were put in place, both at the coaching level and the quarterback level, to try and help out the playmakers like Devontae Adams, like Josh Jacobs. Devontae Adams, definitely one of the talking heads in that situation. So, yeah. MA Football Guys says I stream kickers as well. Often stream tight ends. Thanks, bye weeks. Yeah. Tight end market sucks. Absolutely sucks. We've got guys like Jonnu Smith breaking out once in a while, and all of a sudden we're tempted to take them. We've got different injuries. I said Taysom Hill was going to be nothing coming into this year. Now he's getting more touches on the ground. And with injuries to guys like Darren Waller, all of a sudden we're in a pretty awkward situation. So that's where we are. That is where we are. Really no other way to cut it. But yeah, folks, keep asking me any questions you have related to fantasy. Really thankful to have you all here. Hope you're all having a good Saturday night. I'm trying to. We are struggling in the fantasy football world. I've had a lot of high-scoring teams take some close L's. I lost to an 0-7 team last week, and I was the, I believe, third or fourth highest score. Everything went right. They had DeAndre Hopkins, 3 touchdowns on 4 catches at one point in that game. Frustrating day to be a Corey. So that is all right, though. Let me see here. Oh, I've got your chat up here. Let's go. I've been trying to do this for a while. All right, folks, behave because your chat will now be on the screen. Here, we'll just toss that up in the corner for now. All right, yeah, so there's you. Gosh, my orientation's all messed up. All right, MA Football Guys saying, had to pick up Jonnu Smith with Evan Ingram on a bye. That's just the situation we're in right now, especially with guys like Darren Waller going down. I do think that Taysom Hill's an interesting option just because lately at least he's been getting some more touches. I don't want to say it's a ton. This is somebody you kind of need a touchdown out of. 2 out of the 3 performances where Taysom Hill has scored a touchdown, or 2 of the 3 performances where Taysom Hill, has cleared 10 fantasy points in standard PPR, he has needed to score a touchdown. Touchdown reliancy, unless you're, some elite name like Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson when fully healthy, of course, not something I'm too fond of. I don't think that's a sustainable approach, personally. We want something that more times than not is going to pan out for us. And that's why I have my fantasy football algorithm coming in pretty soon. So very excited for that. If you're wondering what a fantasy football algorithm is, I'm putting together some equations to basically project out what a player is going to do. You need a decent sample size. We're at the halfway point of the season, and we've got plenty of different contextual evidence points, if you will, to consider. We've got a lot of data to go off of. That's what I'm trying to say. This is somebody I experimented with last year because he's one of the most consistent, non-deviating players in the game. We've got a low week here. Otherwise, we're getting 8 targets, 7 targets, 12 targets, 11 targets, 7 targets, occasional touchdown, but we can really just streamline the usage. Kind of had to change things up, obviously, with Baker Mayfield out there. But yeah, Taysom Hill, I was talking about him before. Wouldn't hate this pickup for you at all, especially against my poor Chicago Bears. We've got somebody who, rushing-wise, is actually looking pretty dang good. Touch-wise, he's looking pretty dang good. He's just touchdown reliant. But with Darren Waller going down, with guys like Cole Kmet and Jake Ferguson seemingly falling out of the sky, and with New Orleans looking for any type of answers on offense, all of a sudden, Taysom Hill doesn't look too bad. All right, could also go David Njoku or Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas is on an offense that I think is pretty interesting fantasy football-wise. There are 4 different receivers, pass catchers, if you will, not limited to wide receivers, who have at least 40 targets on this team. Sam Howell's spreading the ball out. He's top 3 in the NFL in passing attempts. We're looking at nearly 40 passing attempts per game. If he was at a clean 320, we'd be there. A little math for you. Logan Thomas, the 4th option, catching about 75% of his passes. Nothing too far down the field. Actually leads all receivers in touchdown grabs. He's been their red zone guy. On track for about 700 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns. Not too bad at all. 8 or 9 touchdowns. We've got a team that needs to score a lot because if you didn't notice, they get into a lot of high-scoring bouts. Their defense gives up a ton of points, and frankly, I really don't care if Washington wins or not. I just want numbers. I want a high-powered offense. I want an offense that has pressure on them to do a lot, and that's what we've seen with guys like Sam Howell, who's currently the QB9 and has been forced to throw a lot. That's what we've seen essentially with this offense in general. Now, we don't have a dagger. We don't have a home run player. We don't have a CeeDee Lamb, and A.J. Brown, a Tyreek Hill, if you will. What we do have is 4 solid fantasy options. Jahan Dotson kind of joined the party with his monster week last week. We've got Terry McLaurin on track once again, just barely for another 1,000-yard season. That would be his 4th. Curtis Samuel, a veteran, looking to be in the ballpark of about 800 to 900. Jahan Dotson, the leader in receiving touchdowns from last year, had 7 receiving touchdowns as a rookie. There he is. And Logan Thomas, north of 30 years old, but not looking like it. He's up there as well. All right. So lots of options there. Wouldn't hate Logan Thomas, to be honest, just because of those red zone targets. I'm a football guy. That's my take there. Alex Descharmes says Taysom Hill is such a wild card. I tend to stay away from him. I typically do as well. Could score double digits one week, then yeah, then not much next week. I completely agree with you there. Cannot blame you for that take at all, to be honest. Yeah, I can't blame you at all. All right. For some reason, nothing is showing up. Oh, there we go. Aha. Oh, all of you are popping in now. Welcome, 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 welcome. All right, so we've got Charlie in here. I think it's my first time seeing you on the stream, so welcome in. Half-point PPR, Rashee Rice or Gabe Davis? Oh, dear. I don't like Gabe Davis, but this year he's really started to become more and more consistent. Tino says, what's up? What's up, Tino? Ask me any questions. You've got it all. Rashee Rice, the impromptu wide receiver one for this Kansas City team. I say impromptu. I would even put it in air quotes because obviously the first option is Travis Kelce. Gabe Davis sits behind Stephon Diggs. Half PPR. We want volume, right? There's no secret there. We want volume in half PPR, Charlie. Let's do a little case study for you. I am looking for the ability to spell, apparently. All right, folks, again, welcome in. I'm Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football, answering any and all of your fantasy football-related questions as we head into Week 9, the official halfway points in the season, which actually feels crazy to say. Going between Rashee Rice and Gabe Davis here. Davis has seen more targets, but what I care about is consistency. My big knock on Gabe Davis the first couple of years of his career is we haven't seen consistency out of him. Specifically in the targets category. I mean, we'll see, like, if you look at last year, this is exactly why I stayed away from Gabe Davis. We'd have 4, 7. Actually, targets-wise, he was fine. Racking in catches, he was not. I mean, he was right at that 50% mark. He'd go out and have a monster performance like this one week, and then a couple weeks later, he'd get you 5.5. He'd get you 5.3, right? I mean, these are not good situations to be in. This year, we're getting a little more out of him. We have 2 high-powered offenses for sure. We have Patrick Mahomes, who's able to make any wide receiving core look good. We've got somebody in Gabe Davis who is still, in my opinion, pretty boomer bust, but he definitely has a higher ceiling. All right, we've got a couple 19-point performances in there. Again, that is half PPR, which actually fits because that's what your question was about. And then we've got Rashee Rice. I do have to say, with so much attention going to Travis Kelce, with Gabe Davis pretty handily beating Rashee Rice right now in targets, albeit the catch percentage is improving, I will say. 2 for 3 is a lot better than the track he was on before. He was flirting with about 50%. I will say, although I'm typically going to advise you to stay away from somebody like Gabe Davis, I think we go with him here. Both high-powered offenses, both solid options. Gabe Davis simply gets more looks, and I think I'm going to roll in that direction more times than not going forward, specifically against the Bengals. Younger secondary. I've talked about this before. The 2 safeties left in Von Bell and Jesse Bates. They're feeling fine, but Kansas City has had to get into a lot of shootouts. All right. So I'm going to go Gabe Davis, Charlie. Hope that helped. Hope that was in-depth enough. All right, we've got Blurpy, Trey McBride, Jake Ferguson, or Taysom Hill. I have McBride in now since he might be a target hog. I mean, logistically, we have a quarterback in Clayton Tune in. That's going to be a name to learn this week. And if you have just a tight end right in front of you, although I did look it up, there's no study that really confirms. There's a study that actually neglects or debunks, I'm looking for words here, the hypothesis that tight ends are targeted more by new QBs. It's about the same. If anything, you see more run-heavy schemes, and we see the wide receiver one, in this case, Marquise Brown, targeted more. I don't love the Trey McBride situation because it is up against a really tough Cleveland defense. But in my opinion, Cleveland wins this game by a metric ton. And as a result, Arizona has no choice but to go throw heavy. So I do think in garbage time, McBride's going to get the most usage. Jake Ferguson, his team could get ahead. All of a sudden, maybe they go run heavy. Taysom Hill, he's touchdown or bust. I do think he's a good pickup in some situations. When you're talking about those 2 other names, I think he is the most inconsistent by far. So I'd be okay with McBride just because of the garbage time. My second choice might be Taysom Hill against that Bears team. Tino says, so I traded Raheem Mostert for Adam Thielen. What do you think? I'm fine with it. We do have somebody in Raheem Mostert who eventually is going to have to deal with Devon Achane again, is already dealing with Jeff Wilson Jr., slowly digging into his touches. And again, this is not a run-heavy team in the Dolphins, but they have established an identity for sure. Folks, if you're just dropping in, I'm Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. We're answering all of your questions ahead of Week 9. Leave a like and subscribe if you appreciate the grind. And if you have any weaning questions, what are we? 14 hours ahead of main kickoff slate tomorrow. Drop them in. We're here to help. We are here to help. All right. But yeah, I think that's a good trade. I mean, we have somebody in Adam Thielen who I personally love the situation he's in, Tino. He's the wide receiver 1 for still the team with the worst record in the NFL. I believe the Panthers and Cardinals share that honor now. Long story short, Tino, if your team's down 14, what are you going to do to try and get back into the game? What is the offense going to do to claw back? Logistically, you are going to be throwing the ball a lot. And Adam Thielen has been reaping the benefits of that. Adam Thielen, great relationship with Bryce Young from what we can see. Caught his first preseason pass. Caught his first preseason touchdown. So we have a pretty good situation there. Adam Thielen looking like prime Adam Thielen. And I would say he's honestly, I'd say if he stays on this track, it's his best year yet. And this is most impressive considering he's on such a poor team. We're kind of seeing a Brandon Cooks scenario from when he was in the Texans and they were horrible. Not to say they're great now. They did just lose to these very Panthers. But nonetheless, I digress. Logan Thomas against my Pats. ... Okay, done. Yes, MA football guy, I'm telling you to try it. I know it hurts you, but he's in an offense that likes to spread the ball around a lot. Alex says, I dropped Gabe Davis after him being so inconsistent. I did too. I drafted Gabe Davis last year, thought about him this year, had him in a couple leagues for a couple of weeks, and then said goodbye. I'm still not sold, but I'm not selling off on him as much because he has had some more consistency. His catch percentage is up to about 65%. It was right at 50 last year, so it's getting better. He's more reliable, but he's still, in my opinion, one of the biggest risks in fantasy football. All right. MA Football Guy says, I just dropped him for Isaiah Pacheco off waivers. Who did you drop for Isaiah Pacheco? Who did you just drop, MA Football Guy? I just want to confirm. Devontae? I hope not Devontae. Yeah, let me know who you dropped. Just kind of curious who you dropped for Pacheco. Pacheco being on waivers is pretty crazy. Let me know how many teams are in your league. I'm kind of curious there too. Panther says, is that the new merch? Oh, Gabe Davis. Okay. I don't know why in my mind I thought you dropped Devontae Adams for Isaiah Pacheco. It's going to very politely tell you to find a way to get Devontae Adams back on your team somehow, some way. Panther says, is that the new merch you're wearing? No, it's a gift from my brother. It just says Broadcaster, limited edition. But I do have new merch. It just launched last week, and that does remind me, folks, we've got a deal for you. You're not going to see many YouTubers do this. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back too much, but here's the deal. I will explain this in 30 seconds or less. Ready, set, go. I have a new merch store. There is a link in the description. Hit that link, get any item, go in the comment section, say done. If you purchase anything from the Armchair Fantasy Football shop in the next 24 hours, so we're looking at about 7, 8, 9 p.m. tomorrow, you will get a one-on-one call from me once a week for the rest of the year. We'll go over your team, we'll go over the rest of your league, we'll go over your record, your situation, and we will do everything we can to make sure that you finish strong. If it's a redraft league, we'll consider that stuff. I do Dynasty, I do half PPR, PPR, Standard, I do it all. Superflex, you name it, I'll do it, I'll help you. Get one item from that shop in the next 24 hours. Link is in the description. And I will call you once per week for the rest of the year. We'll video call, get to know you a little bit. We'll take a look at your team on a week-by-week basis and devise a plan. I'll even take the algorithm that I am making. Before I show it to anybody else, I'll show it to you, apply it to your players, and we will get you in the realm of predictability and put you ahead of your competition. All right, next level stuff. All you got to do is hit that link in the description, grab an item, pretty affordable and pretty high-quality clothing. If you don't like any of it, all of a sudden when it comes in, 30-day, no questions asked, return, refund policy. So please take advantage of that. Pretty good deal to be able to just talk to somebody one-on-one on the phone who puts in probably way too much research into fantasy football once a week for the rest of the year, and all you got to do is grab a shirt or a mug for 15, 20 bucks. Not too bad. All right. Alex Ducharme says, would you play any of the Eagles players besides Hurts or A.J. Brown? Worried about playing DeAndre Swift and Devontae Adams, although that Dallas D is inconsistent. I mean, Devontae Smith, when he runs out of a slot, isn't a bad option. Dallas Goedert, not a bad option. I would say Goddard, for the most part, is probably the most safe one just because of the consistent usage we've seen in the last few weeks. Otherwise, a little concerned there. Front seven of Dallas is not something I really want to go toe-to-toe with all of a sudden and say, yep, I am going to take this running back and chug away at it. I do have the Eagles winning this game, but it is going to be one of the probably closest and best matchups this week. DeAndre Swift is getting a decent amount of volume, so I would say him and Goddard are my two secondary plays. Devontae Smith is, I mean, he's lost some volume. Really, A.J. Brown doesn't see a whole lot of volume. He just capitalizes on every single target, so there is that. So yeah, I'd say Dallas Goedert and DeAndre Swift are relatively safe. Alex Ducharme, regret not picking up Nacua and Thielen. Only if you believe, by the way, that the Eagles are going to win would I take DeAndre Swift, because then it's an even more run-heavy scheme. Alex says, I regret not picking up Nacua and Thielen either through waivers and or the draft. Can't believe I drafted players like Jamal Williams and Dameon Pierce over them too. Didn't really like Dameon Pierce. I like Jamal Williams because I figured he'd go in and the Saints would capitalize on that touchdown upside. Boy, was I wrong. He's been injury prone. Alvin Kamara is just taking every touch on the ground and apparently through the air too. He had 13 targets the other day. Adam Thielen was a late draft pick to me. Puka Nacua, Alex, nobody saw that coming. Late draft pick, rookie out of BYU on an offense where, at least when most of us were drafting, Cooper Kupp was completely healthy. So we're thinking that's a one-man train right there. Maybe we have some targets for somebody like Tyler Higbee, who's been in this offense the past half decade. Can't blame anybody for not taking Nacua. Thielen was like an 11th or 12th rounder in some of my leagues, but nobody saw that one coming either. So Alex, I know, but hindsight's 20/20, my friend. MA Football Guy says 10-team league. 10-team league and Isaiah Pacheco was on waivers. That is something. That is something. All right. Wow. Wow. And with the store, folks, again, links in the description if you want to grab anything. I will be dropping Christmas merch. We're going to try and get that out in the next couple of weeks, so you have plenty of time to order it. Some cheesy fantasy football related stuff. Any requests that you have, I can try and make those as well. Christmas shirts. We'll have crew necks. We'll have sweatshirts. We'll do something with a mug as well. I'm going to try and be as creative as I can, so stay tuned for that. I'm pretty excited for that. Blurpy says, Watson or Carr this week. I'm going Carr with the week matchup. Watson hasn't played a full week of football healthy since week 3. A lot of people are saying this rotator cuff thing is not too serious. I'm saying we haven't gotten some quality football out of him in a while. And Deshaun Watson really hasn't been the same in the last 3 years. Since we last saw him 3 years ago. Ever since he's came back, he's put up career bad numbers. All right, so the guy has been inconsistent. He doesn't exactly have the best arsenal of weapons outside of Amari Cooper and Njoku's And we've got the core of this team, something that takes a lot of pressure off the pass in the strong running reputation, kind of faltering right now with, of course, Nick Chubb down, Jerome Ford battling injury, and Kareem Hunt now coming back. Too much roulette going on in Cleveland. I'm taking Derek Carr. Is that a great offense? Is Derek Carr having a great year? No. But when you're going up against a defense that's missing Tremaine Edmonds and Jaquan Brisker, and you love to check the ball down, and that defense plays zone anyway, I think Derek Carr actually tears it up against the Bears this week. Brian, will you be streaming an hour before afternoon kickoff tomorrow? Yes, I will. So any last-minute questions you guys have then, you pop them right in. Blurpy, I dropped Derek Carr for Watson, but I can pick Carr back up probably. I would go Carr. I'd like to think somebody with more rushing upside like Deshaun Watson would outperform Derek Carr, but Derek Carr in this matchup against a defense that plays a lot of zone, which is typically pretty favorable when you have a linebacker, which, by the way, linebackers are very banged up for Chicago right now, lining up against somebody like Alvin Kamara, one of the most dynamic running backs in open space. It's going to be tough, especially when Derek Carr targets him a lot. I really think Derek Carr has maybe his best game of the year. That's my bold take, but I've got a lot to back it up. MA Football Guy says, surprise me too, man. Yeah, those are just nuts. I mean, that the fact that somebody like Isaiah Pacheco is out there right now in a 10-team league, I want to be in that 10-team league. I'll tell you that much. All right, going to review something again real quick. We've got our plug and plays. Howell's out there too, but Bill always has something for them young QBs, and I'm starting the Pats D. Yeah, don't start your quarterback against your defense. Only bad things are going to happen. At the very best case scenario, they both have, I can't even think. Like Sam Howell has 4 passing touchdowns, but he has 2 pick sixes. How probable is that? To really bring the best out of both, the best case scenario and most likely scenario for you to succeed is they both have an average day, and we don't want average here. So Sam Howell, though, QB9 overall, and again, there's a lot of pressure on him to throw the ball a ton. He's throwing it nearly 40 times a game because Washington gives up the second most amount of points per game. All right. These are the plug and plays. Again, we have Derek Carr with a healthy Chris Godwin and Mike Evans going up against a middle-of-the-pack Houston Houston defense this week. They do allow the 16th most amount of fantasy points to quarterbacks. Derek Carr owning a third of leagues. Just made my spiel about him. Chuba Hubbard, 17 touches to Miles Sanders 2, despite Sanders coming back. Roschon Johnson, the main guy in Chicago, a team that's still built off their backfield, especially with Khalil Herbert out. We've got opportunity there. Tyler Boyd, the wide receiver 3 and one of the most electric offenses in the league, and we can say that again now that Joe Burrow is looking happy and healthy, and Buffalo's secondary has not been as sharp as they have been in years past. Taysom Hill, not Tyreek. We've got the guy at the tight end spot going up against Chicago. He's pretty touchdown reliant, but if you're in a pinch, again, Chicago linebackers, those guys guarding up the middle, typically matched up against tight ends, albeit Taysom Hill's not a traditional tight end. He's available in 62% of leagues, and Minnesota's going up against one of the most inconsistent, but also just flat-out poorest offenses in the league under Arthur Smith in Atlanta. Minnesota's only owned in 29% of leagues. They are around the top 10 in terms of fantasy points gained by defenses, and Brian Flores has those boys blitzing. All right, so we like that situation a pretty decent amount. Keep running through your questions here. I just talked a lot. Wow. And I'm a Pats fan, so I can't watch them do well. Go Pats. Oh, all right, so we've got Blurpy, also a Pats fan. Brian says Gus Edwards versus DeAndre Swift for a running back 2. I think we're going to go Gus Edwards against the Seahawks. DeAndre Swift going up against that Dallas front 7 is not something I'm too excited about. And if Dallas gets ahead, albeit they've lost 3 of the last 4 in Philly, that's really a coin toss matchup to me. Anytime a team is favored by a field goal on their home field, who knows? I really think we got to believe in Gus Edwards. Honestly, a Super Bowl contender over there in Baltimore going up against a pretty rough Seattle defense in terms of the front 7. It's not the Bobby Wagner days anymore. We're going to go and take Gus Edwards. It's close, but we're going to take Gus Edwards. All right. So, Blurpy, oh yeah. Yeah, we've got a couple Patriots fans also going through the same pain as me. I'm a Bears fan, so yeah. Any Packers fans out there? You guys are losing too. So, Blurpy says, I have Roschon, but starting Douglas over him. Can't really blame you. We've got a lot of new names emerging, that's for sure. Rough week of buys for me. Can't say you're alone there because I'm going through it as well. Hey Animals in here saying, hey Corey, traded Cooks for Javonte and Miles Sanders. Oh, Cook. Delvin Cook? Cook ain't getting it done. Yeah. Javonte Williams, actually a decent pass catcher when healthy. The Denver offense is looking a little better under Sean Payton. They went out and shocked some people and beat a sick Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. But I think going for the depth there, we're all right. We just need Miles Sanders to get more touches. I'm going to be honest with you, hey Animal. It looks like Chuba Hubbard's backfield at the moment, small sample size for sure. But if we look at... Got a little lucky there. I just typed in Carolina. That could have been anybody. If we look at what happened last week in this ugly win for Carolina, but it's a win nonetheless. Chuba Hubbard, 15 rushes to Miles Sanders 2. They could not run the ball at all. He's outperformed him in pretty much every statistical category this year other than volume. And then Chuba Hubbard with a pair of targets. Miles Sanders not even targeted. 3 yards per carry flat. Obviously a new offense for him. Chuba Hubbard, 2 years younger, but he's been in this offense longer. This is now his 3rd year with Carolina. Little concerned about the Miles Sanders move, I will be honest with you. All right. I'm here to keep it real. Again, I'm Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. Answering all of your questions ahead of Week 9. Make sure you feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you appreciate the research we are doing here for you on this Saturday night. MA Football Guy saying, Sun God and Jameer on a bye in 1 week, Travis Etienne and Ingram in another. Yeah, the Jags going down kind of hurts me. I'm a big T-Law owner as well, and he's kind of underperformed. James Cook, sorry. Traded James Cook for Javonte and Miles Sanders. So you went for some more depth. That is fine. Buffalo, not really a run-heavy team, and James Cook looking less efficient than he was last year. He has had over 70 all-purpose yards more times than not this year, but when you're not a heavy pass catcher all of a sudden, yeah, right. Judging by the lack of involvement last year in general as the secondary back behind Devin Singletary and the fact that James Cook actually had a decent amount of targets considering his sample size, I thought James Cook was going to get, holy, my light just went nuts. I thought that James Cook was going to have more targets. It'll adjust. There we go. But yeah, kind of disappointing from a PPR standpoint. All right. MA Football Guy saying, we feel you, Corey. Yeah, it does suck. It sucks a lot. Tino's time. I'm missing Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Travis Etienne on one team. Yeah, I think weeks 7, 9, and 13 are bye week hells this year. Yeah, I agree, Plurpy. I mean, 7 was tough. This is going to be tough. And I believe I have like 3 or 4 players on a couple of my teams with a week 13 bye. And week 10. Yeah, this is a gauntlet right now. Once we get through weeks 11 and 12, we'll be okay again. And it's up to us to try and get to that playoff run. All right. Cut Sanders. Just wanted Javonte. Yeah, just getting Javonte is completely fine. More streaming on the way. Yay. Yes, sir. Yep, we are doing the stream ahead of kickoff tomorrow. So I'll see you again in like 12, 13 hours. I won't be gone for too long. Tino's time. What did you say about my trade? It won't let me go back in the stream. I'm not sure I saw a trade, Tino. Let me go way back up. Oh, Raheem Mostert for Adam Thielen. I'm okay with it because Raheem Mostert has volume competition not only with Jeff Wilson Jr., but with Devon Achane when he comes back, a man who was averaging over 10 yards per carry. So that's kind of my opinion there. All right. Yeah, but I'm good with your trade, Tino. We've got a wide receiver 1 on a very bad football team, so naturally he's going to get a lot of targets when they're working from behind. MA Football Guy saying, got T-Log in my other league too. Hey, Animal, do you think Leonard Fournette is worth a pickup? I don't think so. I don't think so either unless you're in a... What is my light doing? Hello? I'm looking very pale right now. Okay, there we go. I don't think Leonard Fournette's worth it either. If we look at what Leonard Fournette did the last time he was in the league, active, getting touches for the Bucs. The last time we really got a good look at what I would consider as a productive Leonard Fournette was playoff Lenny, when the Bucs won it all a couple years ago. 3.5 yards per carry is nothing to walk home about. What we liked about Leonard Fournette was his pass catching upside, but that is such... It's essentially a practice squad acquisition. He's not going to get a whole lot of touches right now. If he really starts to poach from James Cook, I guess I'll eat my words, but I don't think a 30-plus-year-old... Is he 30? He's been playing like he's old. Oh, is he not 30 yet? He's 28. Leonard Fournette is 28, folks. Breaking news. Well, this is somebody who's very inefficient. So if we see him start to get some touches, let's really watch the snap count on Leonard Fournette. Then maybe, but right now, no. It's not worth it. Not worth it at all. You're playing well in our league. Yeah, Brian. For you folks who are just tuning in and haven't been following this channel too long, I did a worst to first draft where I took James Cook and then a ton of backups. James Cook was my 4th rounder. I'm in a 12-team standard PPR league. 6 make the playoffs. And I'm 4-4 right now. Drafted a ton of backups. I went out and traded, picked up on waivers. I picked up Puka on waivers, which was... Got Mark Andrews with Kirk and somebody else. It's actually pretty... different situations that was going on. I remember I got Raheem Mostert before the year started because I had Zach Moss and Van Jefferson, and I dealt them as soon as we found and he ended up exploding. So I'm 4-4 on a team in a 12-team standard PPR format where I drafted a ton of backups except for James Cook. So yeah, Brian, I was not expecting to do this well. I'm going for a playoff run now, though. I like my odds a lot. Thanks for coming. MA Football Guy has been a real one. He's been at nearly every stream since he's subscribed. Same with Brian Pereira. Same with Blurpy. Hey Animal, you're a day one. The support that you guys have given me since this channel kicked off and then re-kicked off this year, phenomenal. So thank you very much. Tino, next week, KC is off. People will be jumping off a bridge. I will be one of those people because I am a Rashee Rice investor in some pretty deep leagues. So we'll see. I don't have a lot of Pacheco stock, though. Can't rewind the stream. I'll look at the settings. Usually you guys should be able to. I can't rewind it either, so something happened. So my apologies on that, folks. Blurpy, KC and Philly and Miami are off. That's going to suck. That's like 10 to 12 good fantasy starters just from those 3 teams. That's really going to suck. Hey Animal says, I've been holding Justin Fields, but I'm not sure if he's worth holding. Team is bad. Team is horrible. I'm a Bears fan, and I will fully admit they might be the worst team in the NFL. Not the least talented, but they just don't know how to produce. So, yeah. MA Football Guy. Honestly, hey Animal, you could package Justin Fields with a bench piece and you go out and get a mid-tier quarterback. You could probably get somebody like a Trevor Lawrence. Don't do it now because T-Law isn't playing this week, but yeah, QB streaming coming down the pike. Yeah. QB streaming to this extent was not something I anticipated at all this year. Your sound's on the fritz. Sound is cutting off a little. Thank you guys. 1 second. All right, check, 1, 2. Can you just get like some confirmation from the chat? How's the sound? Okay, sounds okay now. So, DS is in here. I can't decide. Sit 1 between Raheem Mostert, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, and Kenneth Walker III. Okay, thank you guys for the heads up on that. I appreciate it. I can't really... Sometimes I'll have my stream on to see if there's any technical difficulties, but... This is not one of those times where I was really monitoring it, so thank you for that. All right. Can't decide. Sit 1 between Mostert, Mixon, Swift, and Walker. Mostert, Mixon, Swift, and Walker. I'm probably, sadly, going to sit DeAndre Swift against the Cowboys. Not really wanting to mess with DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, the front 7 in general. I think Dallas has a pretty decent shot to shake that up and blow it out of proportion. Either of those teams could cut each other off and really blow the game out of proportion, and all of a sudden it becomes a pass-heavy scheme for the latter. All right. So I think I'm going to leave DeAndre Swift out of it, TS, because of the tough matchup. Now, that's not to say that Kenneth Walker III doesn't have a tough matchup against the Ravens. That'd be another one I'd possibly sit. Feeling pretty good about Mostert and Mixon, though. MA Football Guy says, A, you're awesome. Well, thank you very much. And B, I'm relatively new to fantasy. Well, I am here to help you, whether it's year 1 or 100 of fantasy. All right. Doing the most in-depth research I can. Really excited to show you guys this algorithm I came up with to try and predict scores. It's basically my own version of projections, but you kind of get to see the reasoning behind it. It's not just like you open up ESPN and go, well, Rashee Rice is going to get 10.5, I guess. This shows you the thought behind it using the law of large numbers, using strength of opposition, using overall contribution to one's offense. I think it's pretty cool. We'll put it to the test. So I put it to the test last year and it worked. Sometimes. Let's see. I wish the Bears would just feed Roschon and see what they have in him before Herbert comes back. I think Roschon Johnson could take that backfield. I don't think anybody really thought that Khalil Herbert had a firm stranglehold on the offense out on the backfield coming into the year. Everything's kind of wide open in a competition, including the quarterback spot. in Chicago right now. Sound is okay now. Second that. Yeah, it was cutting off. Just cut out real quick again, but 99% good. All right. Oh, I'm glad it's good. I will try and fix that and do some test things after this stream ahead of tomorrow, so that doesn't happen again. So my apologies on that. I appreciate you guys for the feedback. Again, if you're just dropping in, I'm Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. We're answering all of your fantasy football related questions as we roll into week 9, which mostly starts in about 14 hours. Folks, we do have a 24-hour one-on-one deal going on. Head on down to the link in the description. Grab one item, say done in the chat when you're done, and I will give you a free one-on-one, or I guess complimentary one-on-one call once a week for the rest of the year. We'll video call. We can do Discord, FaceTime, whatever you want to do. And I will go through the situation on your team, break everything down in your league, and give you some general advice as we roll on into the second half of the season, as we help you make a playoff run or seal the deal if you've got a pretty good record right now. All right. He can definitely take it over. I just want them to feed him. Yeah, Blurpy, it's kind of just a matter of them giving him the ball, right? I feel like that's the case at the moment. Are you not worried about Mixon being questionable? I think he will play, but banged up. So, TS, I haven't seen the words pitch count for Mixon yet, but if we see any inclination of a pitch count happening, then yes, I do grow a little bit more worried. Plug and play is, again, folks, for those of you who are just dropping in, Baker Mayfield going up against a middle-of-the-pack Houston defense. Just repeating this for some people who are stopping in. I see we got a few new members. Thanks for stopping in. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe for helping you out. Derek Carr going up against the Bears defense, missing Tremaine Edmonds, missing Jaquan Brisker, both guys who are kind of responsible for stopping checkdowns. Something Derek Carr has grown to do a lot. Chuba Hubbard, 17 touches to Miles Sanders, 2 last week. Roschon Johnson hopefully taking over that backfield, at least for this week, with Khalil Herbert out once again. Tyler Boyd, the wide receiver 3, on one of the most, I would say, the deepest wide receiving core in the league at the moment. And now that we have a healthy Joe Burrow, we can really talk about how high-powered of an offense they are, even against the Bills. Taysom Hill against that Bears defense, again, that's really banged up in their linebacking core and just secondary in general, outside of Jalen Johnson, who's been tearing it up. And Minnesota's defense against an inconsistent and malproductive offense in Atlanta. And Brian Flores has that team blitzing a lot. So lots of pressure for the new QB and Taylor Heineke, but he could prove me wrong. Just not a lot of electricity on that offense under Arthur Smith, even though they've got Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and many others. And Jonnu Smith, who's been a pretty good surprise. Concise stats, one of the reasons I love football. Football has a lot of nooks and crannies in terms of just ways that you can study these guys. So really excited to release that algorithm. And any of you who take advantage of this deal, head on down into the link in the description and grab an item and say done in the chat in the next 24 hours. We'll get an idea of what that algorithm is, and you get a complimentary one-on-one call from me. We'll go video. We'll go over your team once a week, rest of the year. I am all yours. Don't know anyone else who's really doing that. So please, by all means, take advantage of that. Would love to really grind in and dedicate a lot of time to talking to you in real time, one-on-one, about your team and the future of it and what we can do to strengthen it on all fronts. Folks, I think I'm going to call that a wraps. Again, I will be live once again tomorrow. You should be able to replay this stream as soon as I cap it in about a minute, so I hope that's the case. I'll go back and look into the technical difficulties and the playback option. My apologies on that. But thank you so much for watching. As always, ask any fantasy questions you have in the comment section below. Make sure you like and subscribe if you found any information helpful about this live stream. Don't let Deshaun, your own fantasy football therapist, don't let Deshaun find. I'm just going to not read the entirety of that, but that is something. That's something. All right. So, MA Football Guy talking about the different aspects of football. Got receiving yards, yards after catch, passing yards, rushing yards. Yeah, we got yards before contact, target share, all that good stuff. See you tomorrow, Corey. Thanks, bro. Yes, thank you all. Again, feel free to take advantage of this. Link in the description. Grab one item. Let me know in the comments when you're done. And I'll be your fantasy therapist. One-on-one calls every week for the rest of the year. All right, folks, that's a wrap. See you tomorrow morning. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful night. Get some sleep, and we will see you very soon.